There we go.
Welcome to Tea Time with the Kung Fu Baker, where it's a podcast show designed to help inform you on important subjects so that you, the listener, can be informed and motivated to make awesome lifestyle choices. Today, we have Katie Bueller, midwife extraordinaire, that is going to help us understand midwifery and what somebody who was in my shoes, 10 years ago, scratching their head going, really, there's other options than having a hospital birth. Katie, please take it away. What is midwifery?
Hi, Norris. I am really excited to be on this podcast with you. Really, I love your title. Tea Time with the Kung Fu Baker is so on. I love it. And are we saving the secret for the end? Like,
I don't know what the secret is.
I got to be your midwife.
Yes, Katie, and the adventures that we've had, I will always forever cherish, because if there's one thing that is a life changer, like on every facet of life, is having a child, right? And so therefore, like, people all of a sudden take it seriously, like, because we didn't go to school on this is what it is to have a kid. So I really cherished you as a resource on going, okay, this is it. This is what you need to know. These are the myths. These are the facts. The whole world roughly uses midwifery, midwives, to help assist with child labor, versus here in the States, right? I remember you mentioning it's like a hospital procedure, right? Like you're going in for surgery, which is totally counterintuitive in the world of like how we have and how animals also give birth, right? They're looking for a quiet hangout, safe, dark,
Yeah.
which is like the opposite of a hospital, right? So
Yeah.
Please tell us more about when a newbie asks you, calls you up, Katie, so what's this midwifery thing about?
I really appreciate the introduction, Norris. You have, I think, laid so many important aspects of why my work is important to me. So if you're looking for a birth that is yours, that you're going to be really happy with, that in the end you feel so proud of yourselves and amazed by your body, I believe that the best way to achieve that is to hire a community midwife. And so I'm a community midwife. What that means to me is a birth center or a home birth midwife. Midwives are not the sort of like 1800s image that many people in the United States have today. We don't take horse and buggies and tear sheets. You know, I was trained for 3 years in a school, and then took a licensing board exam, did an apprenticeship for 3 years, and have been licensed for 10 years.
Wow.
I'm licensed by the Medical Board of California. In other words, there's a lot of credential today that goes into being a safe licensed midwife.
You know,
Yeah.
Can I interject there? Because that's really important when I was considering having a midwife. When you said these credentials, right? Because later I learned that midwives actually have more, not only like knowledge in regards to textbook knowledge per se, but also experience in natural birthing versus a doctor.
Yeah. So I was really excited to share with your listeners the truth of the statistics. So when you say natural birth, if a family is thinking that they might want a natural birth, the chances of doing that at home are about 85% for a first-time mom. So you start out at home, chances of having your baby at home is 85%, which means you go all natural. There's no medications involved in home birth or birth center birth. It's, we have water for laboring, 85%. The other 15%, 10% of those are for an epidural. So people who have a long, hard labor and transfer for pain relief. And then the other 5% is for any kind of medical indication. And we can talk more about that. Meanwhile, if you're a family planning a natural birth, but you think the hospital is your best bet, I'm here to tell you that the chances of you having a natural, like unmedicated birth in the hospital is about 5%.
Wow.
So I did the math before this episode. So I think, what does that mean? It means like something like 1 in 20 people will have a natural birth in the hospital. And 1 in 20 or 2 in 20 first-time moms will transfer to the hospital for pain relief from an outside birth, a birth done with midwives outside of the hospital. So to your
Let me
point,
pause
like,
you.
yeah.
So you're saying natural or natural birth, but can you tell the listeners what that really means? Because is there a natural birth?
My definition of natural birth, and you're right, the definition varies. My definition is no medications for pain or for pushing the labor along. So like maybe 90% of births in this country, in the United States, are pushed along with Pitocin and or they get an epidural for pain relief. So to me, a natural birth is where you don't have those two medications on board.
Okay. Now, when I started to learn about what Pitocin and epidurals and the whole nine really are and what they do, it was kind of shocking to me, and it really pushed me away from the hospital birth atmosphere, which I understand it does make sense, especially if like the people go high risk, right? Because that's something that you assess. You assess the person. Are you a good candidate, right, for childbirth?
Yeah.
Can you speak on that?
Okay, so let's back up. So to answer your initial question, a midwife is a maternity or well woman reproductive care clinical provider, just like a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a nurse midwife. So I have a license to provide complete clinical care for a pregnant person all the way until they're 6 weeks postpartum. And within that is, what did you just ask me, Norris?
And then we were talking about like the natural definition or the definition of natural birth.
No, you just asked me something else. I don't know. Okay, so within the scope of my care, I provide complete prenatal care, which means visits on a normal prenatal schedule every 4 weeks, every 2 weeks, and then every 1 week at the end. Monitoring the baby, checking to make sure they're growing properly. I can tell if a baby is head up or head down with my hands. And if any of those things go out of normal, then I have to refer to a person who's trained in things that are outside of normal. In other words, a doctor.
Got it. That was the question.
That was the question. So a low risk person is anyone who is not having a medical complication associated with their pregnancy or their underlying conditions or their birth or postpartum. So for example, if a person comes in and she has high blood pressure, like underlying high blood pressure, she's not a candidate for my care as a primary care provider. If a person is becoming preeclamptic during their pregnancy, so that's a really high risk condition, immediately I send them to a doctor and they get doctor care. So we have it in the United States, or at least in San Diego, a very collaborative healthcare system. And it's relatively easy for me to send someone to the doctor and have them get the treatment that they might need in a more medicalized way.
Cool. Well, that's good to know, because when I was going through the process of trying to understand this whole game or deal, I shouldn't say game, a couple things stood out to me. It's like, one, which every friend and parent will throw at you: is it safe? Oh my God, what happens if there's a problem, right? And you just addressed that with, this is where I found out that doctors, or you have more expertise in natural childbirth than doctors do, because that's more of a surgical procedure where you have complications, right?
Right. And so that's why in other countries, midwives handle all of the normal pregnancies and births, and doctors only handle the ones that have additional complications. Because, right, we hire doctors because there's something wrong and we need a medicine, or we need an x-ray, or we need a splint on our arm, that's what we hire Western doctors for. We don't hire them when we're doing just fine. That's not what they're good at. And so a midwife is someone who's, I'm trained specifically in how do we help people who are normal, natural, like having great, healthy pregnancies. How do we optimize those pregnancies and those births so that the folks like you and your family, Norris, have a wonderful sense of how they're doing. They have guidance when they need it. So like my back is hurting, or I feel like I just don't have enough energy. These are common pregnancy problems that midwives are great at solving, that are really not well solved in the standard medical clinics.
Yeah, I remember Brooke calling you up. I'm like really nauseous. It's like, what do I do? This is what I've done, and you really help to work with them, get to know them, you develop a relationship. And that's a huge thing, because I think I didn't realize how important it was to have you until I had you. And I remember on Erin's pregnancy, right, baby number 1, we ended up in the hospital.
Yep.
Because you made the judgment call of like, you know what, I'm just going to err on safety.
Yep.
And let's go get checked out to make sure everything's still cool. And you did, and it all worked out. We went back home, had a wonderful birth. And I just want to relieve listeners that are contemplating or have heard of midwifery and curious about it, that it is a very regimented, not only education, but the whole, like, you just don't become a midwife like after a test, right? There's on the job training.
There's a really comprehensive list of skills that a student midwife has to prove that they can perform. They have to prove it to the midwife who's signing off for them. And then that midwife is under essentially like penalty of losing her license if she forges any of that.
Wow.
And it's that list, Norris, is like 100 pages long.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a very comprehensive training for sure. Yeah. For sure. And also, I just, for your listeners, I think what's really magical about this place, if you're talking to people, if you listeners right now, or if you're like the kind of person who's tuned into health and want to live like the healthiest version of yourself, mentally and spiritually and physically, that's exactly what midwives show up for. And it's really hard to get that in a 5-minute doctor appointment, where what they're trying to do is weigh you. How much are you gaining? So it's like an industrial kind of approach to the body. We have a product at the end of this. The product is the baby. That's not the way that midwifery looks at it. So the doctor appointment, you go in, they weigh you, they do your blood pressure, they measure your belly, they may offer you an ultrasound because they make more money on it. And then they're like, okay, see you next visit. They draw their labs. The midwifery appointment is usually, like, as Norris knows, 45 to an hour long. And that gives us a lot of time to talk about your backaches, to talk about preparing for this baby who's going to be with you for a good long time and needs a lot of help, there's a lot of preparation that can go into even having your 3rd baby. Folks having their 2nd baby have a very different list of challenges than people having their 1st, and so on. And so it's all of those, as Norris was pointing out, like it's all of those really personal interactions that then leads you to feel really comfortable and safe with your midwife when it's time for you to give birth. And then again, into your postpartum, where there's this beautiful little creature that you are taking care of. And then I'm coming back to your home to make sure that they're growing nicely, that that connection is being nurtured, that you're not like just falling off into an abyss, which is what happens in the American healthcare system today. You leave the hospital and that's it. See ya.
Check, please. We're done.
And instead, like midwives like me, we come to your home, we check in. Okay, you're having a breastfeeding issue. Let's figure that out. I remember with Julia, I wound up like doing a lot of extra stuff for Brooke because what she was really uncomfortable with, like how Julia was sleeping. We went to a holistic pediatrician together, and tried to suss out all the problems. And for me as a midwife, Norris, like, I'm very proud to tell you, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just like you, when you're baking your bread and you're like, ooh, when I added this, this happened. I'm like, oh, when we added a holistic pediatrician, this is the information we got, and it either helped or it didn't.
Right.
So, so like you as a baker, or a tea master, a Kung Fu practitioner, like all of these parts, are learning for me. They're exciting to like practice and see what happens. And when you try something new and to learn from, and I don't hear that kind of excitement coming from, the doctors that I have had a chance to talk to. I feel like the healthcare system unfairly like pins them into a situation where they're kind of having to work super hard for a lot of people for a very small, for what is for them, given the amount they're putting in, a small amount of money. I feel like I do feel like the healthcare system is also not very good for the doctors. It's not just that they're like, it's not that they're bad people, it's that the system pushes them into these roles that are really uncomfortable.
Right.
Whereas for me, I get to be in my own health, in a relationship that feels great to me, and where I'm assisting you as a family to like be foundationally strong. And hopefully you and Brooke felt like you had a lot of communication, around your birth, and you felt really supported in that communication. And then watch these families grow over time. It's wonderful.
It was a wonderful experience all three
Good.
times.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to have you on this show, because I really, until I learned about midwifery, one, I didn't know it was an option. Two, I didn't know how the hospital, like you're saying, you know, it's very clinical, it's very industrial feel to it. And the things that it's like, somebody used the beautiful, I think that actually was used, like, how are you supposed to relax when you have bright lights? You're in a always laying down, right? So after a while, it gets uncomfortable. And strangers, right? Nurses, whoever's on shift, coming in, poking you in your hoo-ha, saying, okay, and then leaving, writing some stuff down, not sharing with you, right? There's no open relationship there. And then the doctor finally coming in and saying, well, you know what, Mrs. Jones, you're not progressing fast enough, so we're going to be recommending this drug, right? It just doesn't make sense. It's like, of course I'm not progressing because I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel like you guys are really looking out for me. I mean, and the list goes on, right? And the opposite is what I experienced with you, midwifery, and how we did have that long session to be able to relax and ask the questions that we may not feel comfortable asking, or we may not even know, right? I don't know what I don't know. But in a
Right.
conversation, that stuff starts to get revealed. So you start to have
Right.
that long session. I mean, how long do you take on a family before they start having a baby?
Right now I have somebody that came and started care at 4 weeks pregnant.
Wow. So like you have
So,
almost that whole 6-month period to develop a relationship,
yeah,
figure out their home, right? Figure out plan B, and
right,
really get to know them. What's important to them? Do you want candles in your room? Do you want some
right.
essential oils going? Let's make it into a spa experience. Do you want a pool? Do you not want a pool? I mean, it was just so awesome to have you. So, and I think right now you have like a program going on, right? Like where you're educating people. Can you tell me about that?
I have a couple of big projects I'm very proud of right now. One is I am about to complete and launch an audio course for second-time parents. I meet many parents who had hard first births, and there's almost a doubt because their first birth was so hard and it didn't go the way they wanted. They have a big doubt about whether they can have something better the next time. And so I am launching an audio course. So it's all ears. You could, just like a podcast, you can run around after your babies and listen to the podcast. Both partners are included. And it really walks you through the steps of how to get a better next birth. because that's actually the title of the course, A Better Next Birth.
Yay.
Because, yeah, because I think that you, if you're having a next birth, are in a particularly good position to get something better. And I have done it successfully hundreds now of times. And I was
Wow.
like, oh, I need to harness that and make that more available to more families who don't realize that this is possible.
That's so awesome. See, that's
Thank
the
you.
information that we need to get out, right? So that people are
Yeah.
educated, they're informed, and now motivated to make a decision. So how does
Yeah.
somebody find that, right? Because obviously if they're local San Diego, they can call Katie Buehler, midwife extraordinaire. But let's say you live in another state or even another country. It's like, it seems like you have this resource on your website or what?
I'm so happy to talk to you about this, Norris. You don't even know. So I also, my other big mission is called See Midwives. So I have created a website. It's called seemidwives.com, and it has the course on it. And then it also has a midwife directory. So you, the average person right now, it's just Southern California. You can go in and you can click and you can find a midwife in your region. So it's creating, like you're saying, that opportunity for people to connect with midwives from their area. If you're
That's so
listening to
awesome.
this and you live in, Idaho or New Jersey, you just Google midwife near me and you'll start to find the community midwives near you.
That's awesome. See,
Yeah,
like, that's what we're talking about. Thank you so much, Katie. I mean,
you're
so
so
like,
welcome.
perhaps one day you'll be working globally, right, with community midwives from around the world, and you guys will create like this huge directory with reviews, with
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, because I think
Yeah.
really we need to get this information out because
That's why I started See Midwives. The mission is to shift American culture to valuing community midwives as the highest value in maternity care by the time I retire in 2053. So 20 years, I want to see a 30% increase. And here's what it would take. It would take, I don't want to meet one more American person who says, I didn't know midwives were still a thing. I want that to be gone. You don't have to choose a midwife, but you should at least understand the level of quality that we're offering and the safety that we're providing. If you get that and you choose something else, that's fine, but you need to know.
yeah. Well, I mean, and even with newer generations, it's like, what's midwife? Right?
I've got 40,000 subscribers on TikTok. So I am making my way with the younger generation for sure.
That's awesome.
I'm so excited by how many younger women are paying attention because of social media. It's really unlocking something that we haven't had in the past 30 years. And I'm very optimistic that in the next 30 years, we're going to see a tremendous resurgence of midwifery.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, well,
Thank
you know
you.
what? Technology does have its huge benefits, and it's one of them to get the word out. Well, Katie, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and put your contact information in the description so people can reach out to you and awesome
Sounds
programs
great.
that you're
Sounds great.
offering.
Norris, like we're being very professional, but I love you and your family. I love how you empower other people. It is a tremendous generosity of spirit that you have, and this like absolute impact-driven life. I very much honor your work, and I'm very pleased to get a chance to talk to you and to be part of your family's life too.
Oh, thank you so much, Katie.
Yeah.
Blessings. Enjoy your vacay.
Look, I'm drinking tea too.
Awesome. Cheers. To your health
Cheers.
and prosperity. Take care, Katie.
You too,
Bye-bye.
Norris.